Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. I always love it when I get to talk with fellow C-suite network individuals because we always have such a great conversation. So please join me in welcoming the lovely, the talented, the extremely smart Wendy Watson to our program today. Welcome, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, thank you, Deb. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is awesome. And hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and listening.
We're going to have a great conversation. So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So Wendy Watson, a spiritual relationship mentor and CEO at TBR Spiritual Health, is dedicated to guiding individuals through transformative journeys towards healing, personal, and spiritual growth. With a focus on helping people overcome the trauma of divorce, cultivate healthy relationships, and address a range of mental and emotional challenges, Wendy is committed to empowering her clients to reclaim their inner peace and fulfillment. As a fifth-generation entrepreneur, five 2023 finalist for the BBB, Better Business Bureau, Torch Award for Ethics, and author of Verbal Turbulence, the 70-20-10 Rule, and as a seasoned speaker, she's doing Vanna there, showing us the book cover, Wendy brings a wealth of expertise and insight to her work. She specializes in nurturing inner relationships, establishing self-worth, finding peace in relationships, and strengthening intuition, offering practical tools and compassionate support to facilitate lasting change. Holy schmoly. What an intro. This is going to be fabulous. I always like to know, though, the details. How is it, Wendy, that you got to where you are today?
Oh, my goodness. That's a long story. I don't know.
We do have an hour, but...
being a child of divorce and having evil step parents and falling into two toxic marriages myself, and then losing a child, going through bankruptcy, like all the things. I then went on my own spiritual journey, just like, what am I doing? Why am I collecting these people? Why am I making the decisions that I'm making? And I realized just how much of an impact. Like, it totally did a 180 for me, totally changed my life. And then I started incorporating that into my massage business. And I noticed how much of an impact it was having on other people. And so I just want to do more, be more, and help other people as much as I can.
I love it. I love it. And in your book, which again, be Vanna, the Verbal Turbulence, the 70-20-10 Rule, Wendy does go into a lot of detail about what she has been through. But we've all gone through turbulence, even those who think I had a wonderful childhood. When you think back, you didn't, or maybe you were sexually assaulted by a date, or you got fired from jobs and you couldn't understand why. Nobody has a perfect life, but the important thing is, how the heck do we overcome it and go forward? And I think it's a challenge, right? Because we can get stuck in the oh, poor me's, and
they say it only takes one attaboy, or it only takes one oopsie to destroy 9 attaboys.
Right.
Right. We have a tendency to focus on so much of that negativity that we don't see all the positive. So maybe it was a breakup, maybe you got fired, maybe you had a health concern. Or something that's holding something inside that's preventing you from overcoming or from seeing possibilities and new opportunities, right? And it's holding you back a little bit, and that's not I invite you to overcome that so
Right.
that you can have a better version or be a better version of yourself.
Right. And what I loved in your book was you talk about reframing kind of that question, that mental conversation that you're having. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So my 70-20-10 rule, let's just give a little bit of an intro for
Yep.
people, was given to me in accounting when I worked for corporate America. So imagine this. I had angry and selfish communication and I was a perfectionist.
No.
I had a really hard time building relationships at work. And so he comes to me and he's like, look, as long as 70% of the invoices go through just fine, 20% get escalated, and 10% we write off, like that's our goal. And like, I was like, wait,
You didn't have to be
you're willing to write
perfect.
stuff off?
Right.
Right. But it gave me that little bit of grace to not be perfect.
Right.
And I don't know anybody on this planet that doesn't need that.
Right. And we all, and I think especially women, think we have to
Yes.
be perfect.
Well, because that's the stigma. We need to be able to
Right.
take care of the home, create a home, take care of the kids, make dinner. And now we have, a lot of women have businesses or jobs
Right.
and all the things. And so we're still we feel, or there might be a stigma there that we still have to do all of these things. And so one of the ways that I turned that around on myself was through the lens of communication. And the third phase for me, which is what you mentioned, is how I'm communicating with myself. And because how you communicate with yourself is eventually how it comes out with other people.
Right. And we're so much harder on ourselves than anybody else is.
We're our own worst critics, right? So what I realized was that other than thinking about daily tasks, like setting that side of self, 90% of my communication with myself was negative.
Right. You're an idiot. You screwed
I'm
up.
an
You're
idiot for
horrible.
phone or calling myself a 4-letter word for taking the wrong name, for taking the wrong turn or missing my turn or something, or calling somebody an idiot for cutting me off. And I really didn't like what I was hearing. Or I don't want to wear this shirt today because it makes my muffin top stick out, or something. And I really didn't like that. And I decided that I wanted 70% of my communication with myself to be positive and reinforcing.
Right. So it's not 100%.
It's
right?
not 100%, right? I want the 10% to be negative. I'm choosing 10% of my communication to be negative.
Because that's how we improve.
Well, I choose to use it as my devil's advocate.
Okay.
So that's my ego coming in and making sure that I'm going through all the checks and balances, crossing off all the T's, dotting all the I's, and making the decisions that I want to make. And so I'm happy, but it's got to be 10%. It can't be more than that because then it starts taking over the other. And then 20% is somewhere in the middle, right? Because I'm really good at living in the gray zones. To me, black and white barely exist, and everything is a different shade of gray. So I like having like that middle ground, but I also like having that 10% of grace.
Right. I love that. And we say such horrible things in our heads. And then if you find out from somebody else what they thought, they never are thinking the same thing about us, or at least they don't tell us. And it's we need and we do need to have those conversations, right? In our heads, but we need to give ourselves grace. We need to honor that. Okay, this is how I'm feeling today. And it is a challenge because I think, especially like for me, those negative comments, and some of them were like when we were 10, right? Or, all of those things, they stick with you.
They do.
And then they just get bigger and bigger.
And then you take them on as a belief.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's fact, right? Somebody said, hey, you're stupid. Well, I must be stupid.
Well, if you hear it over and over again,
right.
then you end up taking that on. So instead, the first step that I ended up doing is taking the small things, like when I drop my phone. Instead of calling myself something or saying, you idiot, you dropped your phone, I decided to change it to thank you for not breaking.
Right. At least it didn't break.
Or thank you for not falling in the toilet.
Even better.
What can I be grateful for in this moment instead of, the negative talk? So the next time somebody cut me off, it was thank you for not hitting me.
Right.
Thank you for allowing me to test my reflex skills. Right? Something.
Right. And I love that because we're still acknowledging that it happened.
Yeah.
Because we can't, we don't want to be Pollyanna and act like, no, it's not there. We need to acknowledge that, yeah, you dropped your phone, but it didn't fall in the toilet.
Right. So it helps you. It's okay to like recognize that you're frustrated that you dropped your phone or that you're pissed off because somebody cut you off. The point is to spend as little time in that space as possible.
Right.
One of my favorite quotes that I heard, it's not about being triggered. It's about how much time you spend being triggered. So the triggers are going to happen, but what are some tools that you can use, like the 70-20-10 rule, or like positive thinking or gratitude to help get you out of being triggered sooner?
Right. And it is healthy and it is natural to have those negative feelings.
Yep.
I've talked about this on the program. I have stage 4 breast cancer. That's not a happy diagnosis. And there are times where I am mad at the world, and usually it's when it's a bad pain day or, all sorts of things. And so I allow myself to be mad at the world, my poor husband. And then maybe it's okay, I need to go lay down. I need to, what caused that? Okay. So then I go, but if I were to just, oh, this is happy, that's even more unhealthy. Because things happen, and
well, and it's okay. I mean, you're battling something serious.
Right.
I had pelvic cancer or cervical cancer. Right. It's okay to be in those emotions
and to be mad and pissed at God, your body, the world.
Right. But
whatever.
Allow yourself to feel those feelings. Allow yourself to process it. And then allow others or yourself to help lift you up and get out of it so that you don't stay in that.
Right. And sometimes it is the other people, right, who do that. Just last week I went in for treatment, and for 9 years I've been getting an infusion into a port in my shoulder, and I hate it. It's ick. Bleh. But it's kept me here, so that's kind of the thing. But we finally got it approved that I could do an injection rather than the infusion, and so they had told me, it goes in your upper thigh, so you need to wear shorts. And so it happened to be chilly here in Atlanta, so I had my shorts on, but I had sweats on over top, right? And so I go back into the corner, which is where they had told me to go, and then I just kind of dropped my sweats. They were like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "I got shorts on. It's all right. It's all right." But, and so, and we laugh and we joke, and I try and uplift them, because they've got a hard job. And so anything I can do to uplift them. So, if I gave them a pause that I was flashing the world, that was kind of funny, right?
Oh my gosh. I love that. Right. And that brings me to the first way that I use my 70-20-10 rule is I realized that 70% of what other people were communicating to me was their own stuff.
Right.
It's their own stuff.
Based on their own experiences, life, all of that.
Beliefs, fears, judgments, all the things. 10% might be directly personal to me or the conversation at hand. And then 20% was somewhere in the middle. And my first takeaway was, if it's not personal to me, why am I taking it personal?
Right.
And number 2, how can I discern through all of this information and find the 10% of nuggets And three, if that's the quality of our conversation, how much time
Right.
do I really want to
Right. Yeah.
spend with you?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
But I mean, that goes back to what you were saying. Like, if they have a reaction,
Hmm.
that's their reaction. Like,
Hmm.
don't fall into their
Hmm.
drama.
Right.
Don't take it
Hmm.
personally because it's not meant to be
Hmm.
personal.
Hmm.
That's their stuff,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So
And we
helping
can,
uplift, go
right,
ahead.
right. And we can wonder, maybe, like you said, somebody cuts you off in traffic. We don't know what's going on with them. Maybe they're on their way to the hospital. Maybe they just got fired. I mean, we never know all of those things. And so, and it's incredible the stories we tell in our heads, right? Those little stories are continually going. But yeah, we don't know that 70% usually. Now, sometimes you might know, okay, this person has been through this, and so they're probably going to do that. But in many cases, we have no idea.
Well, you might have some sort of mental
Hmm.
concept,
Hmm.
but you don't know. You
Right.
don't feel it like they
Hmm.
feel it,
Hmm.
right? So, trying to take a step back and understand. I mean, our brains are great for imaginations, right? We
Hmm.
have great imaginations. We
Hmm.
can come up
Oh
with
yeah,
all
if we don't know, that story comes out.
things,
Right. Hmm.
right? But it's taking that pause
Hmm.
to really take yourself out of that and be like,
Hmm.
okay, I don't know what they're going
Hmm.
through. I might have an idea.
Hmm.
Maybe they're going through a divorce.
Hmm.
They might be happy about it. They might
Hmm.
not be happy
Hmm.
about it,
They might be
right?
mixed. Hmm.
Right. It might be mixed. You don't
Hmm.
know how they're dealing with it.
Hmm.
So just take a step back, take ownership of
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
responses versus your
Right.
reactions, and then lead with love.
Hmm.
Just figure out how to move
Hmm.
forward in kindness and
Hmm.
intentionality.
Right. And in some cases, maybe many cases, the way is to basically say bye-bye to them, right?
Yep. I'm gonna let you have
And
way
yeah,
over here.
yeah, and you deal with them when you have to. And I mean, like, we've all had bosses and coworkers, right? That you were stuck with, but you learned, I'm going to sit at the other side of the table because I don't want them going in my ear. All of these things, you can still say, hi, how you doing? You just go sit where you can't be close
Yep.
to them. All of those things. And maybe it's the grumpy client, right? We've all had the client that you cannot please. And
Right.
sometimes it's, what? I'm just going to bid you adieu and not have you as a client.
Those clients cost you time,
Mm-hmm.
money, and energy,
Mm-hmm.
resources, all the
Right.
things.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't behoove
Mm-hmm.
you to work with those
Mm-hmm.
clients because it's just going to cost you more
Mm-hmm.
money and more
Right.
energy in the long
Mm-hmm.
run. So, using the 70, 20,
Mm-hmm.
10 rule to really discern
Mm-hmm.
through that
Mm-hmm.
information will help you to hire better clients,
Right.
will help you
Mm-hmm.
to hire better
Mm-hmm.
vendors or business
Mm-hmm.
associates or find the right dating
Mm-hmm.
partner, right? You've really got to sort through that
Mm-hmm.
stuff and intentionally
Mm-hmm.
listen so that you can pick the
Mm-hmm.
right
Right.
people that you
Well,
want.
and let's be honest, it's two-way. I mean, if they are
Yes.
continually grumpy at you, somehow they're getting that from you. And so
What are you putting off? Yeah.
right, yeah, and we might be grumpy back. If I know somebody's going to give me a short, snarky answer, I might not even give them time to give me that short, snarky answer. I'm going to say something to them first, and so yeah, how do we, it's better in the long run to say, let's go our separate ways.
Right. Or to just stop and listen to
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? This was my
Mm-hmm.
second step in changing my thinking
Mm-hmm.
was waiting for the first
Mm-hmm.
reaction to
Mm-hmm.
come up and then choosing whether or not that was the
Mm-hmm.
reaction that I wanted to have. And
Right.
sometimes I would wait for the third or fourth
Mm-hmm.
option to come up,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's the seventh or the eighth
Mm-hmm.
option that'll
Mm-hmm.
come up that I'm like, okay, that's the one that I want
Mm-hmm.
to use,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus just reacting or just saying what
Mm-hmm.
you're going to say and being really intentional about that. But you have to do that
Mm-hmm.
first to be able
Mm-hmm.
to have that
Mm-hmm.
conversation with somebody else. If you know that that's the reaction that they're going to have, putting yourself, checking in with yourself first to make sure you don't fall into that is a good step. But there's plenty of times, and even with my family, I will just, I'm going to love you from Denver, even though you're in Colorado, or even though you're in California or Arizona. I'm going to love you from over here because we have a better relationship distance.
Right. And it's funny, especially in business, because, we think, well, we have to have that money. We have to have them as a client. And sometimes we do, let's be honest, we got bills we got to pay. And so, I tend to charge a PITA tax, pain in the, and, of course it doesn't go on the invoice like that.
Right.
But yeah, but it's just not good all the way around. But maybe we can think about it. Okay, well, this person always complains that I'm late with whatever. Okay, make sure you're extra early. How can you kind of anticipate? And we've done that in relationships, right? Especially an abusive type of relationship. I'm going to get hurt so I'm going to do everything I can to not get to that if point. And so, if we know that client is going to be cranky about something, then short cycle it and do something before so that they can't be cranky about it.
Short cycle it, or just set yourself up to where they cannot affect your energy. Right. So there are times where I just set my space, my personal space, right? We all have like 3 or 4 feet or so around us of personal space, right? And I set my personal space with love, and you cannot penetrate that space. I don't care how cranky you are. I don't care how negative you are. You cannot penetrate my bubble. Right. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make double, triple sure that everything that I say is with the intention that I set for that meeting. So even if it ends up being an hour long, I know that I have set myself up for success to not fall into their drama patterns, not fall into that negative energy. Right. And then there's times where you're just like, okay, we're going to only spend 5 minutes together.
Yeah. 10 minutes and we're going to be saying things we shouldn't. And it is about that intention. I sent somebody an email today, and it was about something that I had asked her if she would do, and regarding another person. And I told her, I said, is that my responsibility? Probably, but that's not the hill I'm going to die on. And I said, so if you can do it, then we might have a much better outcome. And so, yeah, I mean, and now, are we enabling those people? Sure. We were chatting before the program about mothers, right? Oh my God. I think one of my favorite sayings is, they know what buttons to push because they put them there. And my mom she'd push buttons. She knew exactly what buttons to push. And when I finally learned, okay, I don't have to react or, whatever. Now, I knew that meant that in many ways she got her way by doing that. So then again, was that the hill I wanted to die on? Or did I want to go about it in a different way so that I actually won? And sometimes that happened. And then you could see that she would think, huh. And she was usually proud of me, that I had done that. But yeah, it's, what can we do? Again, these, happens all the time with people that we work with, clients, whatever it is. How can we kind of go about it in a different way?
Yes. Right. So maybe they do win, and that's okay.
Right.
Maybe you both win because winning is in your own mind.
Right. I won because we didn't fight.
Exactly. And she won because she got her way. However that looks like for you is what you need to create for yourself.
Right.
So as we were talking before the show, I tend to be the one that pushes all the buttons.
And you talk about that in your book.
I do. Yeah. Because again, very angry and selfish as a kid. And so I would be the one that pushes all the buttons.
Mhm.
And that, how I see that, one of the other favorite things that I heard is the sacred yes and the sacred no.
Mhm.
And so when somebody pushes my buttons, I see that as an opportunity for growth, for personal
Mhm.
development,
Right.
versus
An
them pushing
opportunity
my
to push
buttons
back.
and like versus trying to push back. It's like, okay, what are you trying to teach me?
Mhm.
Right. And so when I have a tendency to push my mom's buttons,
Mhm.
um, I see it as an opportunity for personal growth and
Right.
personal development for her.
Mhm.
Whether she chooses to take it is
Mhm.
totally up to her.
Mhm.
But for me, it's the spiritual
Mhm.
reciprocity,
Mhm.
right? You are trying to teach me a lesson. I'm going to open myself up to that
Mhm.
lesson. And by learning that lesson, I am sending that positive energy,
Mhm.
that karmic energy
Mhm.
back to you. So that to me is the spiritual
Mhm.
reciprocity around
Right.
it. So anybody that, ever says anything or does anything to me, it's like, okay, what lesson
Mhm.
can I offer you?
Mhm.
And then I can only hope that you take that
Right.
opportunity to learn the lesson.
Mhm. And if you don't, you don't.
That's on you.
Mhm.
I just gave you the opportunity.
Mhm. Right. And I love that because especially as women, we want to fix everything, right? That's the nurturing part of us. We're going to fix whatever it is. Well, sometimes it ain't fixable. It might just be too broken, or maybe it's fixable, but in a different way.
Right. Or maybe they just need to learn on their
Mm-hmm.
own. There's
Right.
times where people need to just sink
Mm-hmm.
and swim
Mm-hmm.
and learn on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually doing a
Mm-hmm.
disservice to them
Right.
by fixing it
Mm-hmm.
for them,
Mm-hmm.
because now they're not
Right. They're not
learning.
going to learn. Mm-hmm.
They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
learn the coping
Mm-hmm.
skills. They're not going to learn the
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence. They're not going to,
Mm-hmm.
learn all of these valuable
Mm-hmm.
tools to be a
Mm-hmm.
productive member to our
Mm-hmm.
society.
Right.
Right. So sometimes you just need to take the hands-off
Mm-hmm.
approach. Sometimes they just need nurturing,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't always need to be the fix it. We don't always
Mm-hmm.
need somebody to fix it for
Mm-hmm.
us, but sometimes we just need the shoulder to cry on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we just need the ear to vent to.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the times what I'll do is I will ask, okay, what role do you need me to play?
Ah, are you just needing me to listen? Are you
What
wanting
do you,
advice?
right? Instead of assuming or
Mm-hmm.
coming in how I want to serve,
Mm-hmm.
how do you need me to serve you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I love using this example, and I don't use this very often, but I had a date that needed my help with car shopping,
Mm-hmm.
and something had gone wrong with their car service.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the way there, I'm like, okay, this is where my mama bear comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where I'm gonna want to protect you and like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But what I need to know from you is what role do you want me
Right. Do you want me to be
to?
Mama Bear today?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you need me to be mama
Mm-hmm.
bear? Do you
Mm-hmm.
need me to be that ear
Mm-hmm.
that's listening for somebody that's trying to
Mm-hmm.
um disservice you? And he's like, no, I just need you to be there to listen, help me talk through
Mm-hmm.
through the analysis
Mm-hmm.
of the new car and just be there for support.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, now I know my role.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can
Right.
drive up and
Mm-hmm.
park.
Right. Right. And I love that because a lot of times it's the reframing of what the issue is. Maybe it's not something that needs fixed at all. I've shared this before in the program. I'm Miss Type A, right? There's my way to do it, and there's the wrong way to do it. Now, did I get that from my mother? Yes. But I have been learning, and it's been a painful kind of process, right? To let others do it, to delegate. That's been really hard. But give them enough, because you don't want them to just start from scratch. And of course, part of it is sometimes I could actually do it in the time that I have to explain to somebody this is what I need done. So that's where I end up just doing it. When no, I need to still give them that opportunity. But when I really learned, just because it's not done my way doesn't mean it's wrong. That's where things really work, right? And that's where it's fun, because we've empowered them. I think the key is to let them know, if you have questions, if you need anything, let me know. Now I have spoiled people because they know that I'll just take over and do it. And I just chaired a great big dog show, and I've been doing it for quite a long time, and being miss in charge of everything, and so people were used to that. And some of the folks, I had to keep saying, I trust you, I know you can do this, because they were just, for one thing, they're probably waiting for me to leap in and take over. So then they were kind of hesitant. Why should we do all this work if she's just going to do it her way anyway? But I just kept telling them, I trust you, I know you can do this.
Right. And that's why
I stepped back.
And that's why I love renunciation. Foregoing all expectations. That is how so many inventions have come into play, by making a mistake. Right? So when we set an expectation of how we think something is going to manifest, we set ourselves up for disappointment.
Right.
And we set ourselves up to be closed-minded. Because life doesn't happen according to plan.
No.
I don't know anybody out there that actually has had life go according to plan in every facet, right? So when we set those expectations, like, we close off all of these other opportunities that are around us, because we're so boxed into this idea. And so by renouncing all expectations, you open yourself up to this myriad of this infinite number of possibilities. And you might actually see a better opportunity than what you could have comprehended yourself or imagined yourself, because you opened yourself up to other things.
And we have to push our ego down to say, that's okay.
Yes, it's okay to have, to end up dating somebody that's not your type.
Right.
Right? Because you might experience or learn something new from that person. Right? Or maybe it's the job that you didn't quite imagine for yourself, but it could lead to a whole slew of other things. Right? So get out of the construct of just this minute brain and open yourself up to all these other possibilities to see how things are going to manifest for you, and let them manifest in any way that universe, God, spirit, life, whatever you want to call it, presents itself.
Right.
Don't put yourself in a box.
Right. And sometimes you might need to say, but hold off on doing that, and because maybe that sounds great, but it's more than we had planned financially. Okay. Then everybody puts their thinking hats back on to think about a different way to do it. And so it's not just total free will and running amok. I think you still need a little bit of guidelines, but yeah,
maybe if it's outside of your budget or what you anticipated.
Yeah. How else could you do something?
Or how else can you raise the money?
Right.
Right. That's where it's healthy to use our imagination and creativity.
Right.
Allow it to present itself, find the opportunity that you really want to invest in, whether that's time, money, or love, or whatever that you really want to invest in, and then find the resources in order to make that happen.
Right. And it might mean that you have to make some changes and some modifications, but you need to have explored all the options, or not all, because, but you need to have explored options to be able to say, okay, and then maybe you're going to go, okay, I like some from A and I like some from B, so let's use those to make C. But it's, and the big thing I think that we all get caught up in is we have got to absolutely communicate.
Yes.
I can't read your mind. You can't read my mind. And so, if somebody's not meeting an expectation, Was it because I didn't tell them what it was? Right. And how
How
many
many
times?
times have we put
Yes.
expectations on other
Yes.
people and
Mhm.
then we're disappointed because they didn't meet those
Right.
expectations that they
Mhm.
didn't know that they were being held to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
They
my
didn't
God,
know
is
that.
that the
Yeah.
most
Mhm.
unfair thing that we do
Mhm.
to our loved ones,
Right.
the
Mhm.
people around us?
Mhm.
It's so
Mhm.
unfair.
Mhm.
But sometimes we don't know what
Mhm.
expectations
Mhm.
we're putting on other people, or we just
We
assume,
assume.
right? What do you do
Mhm.
when you assume?
Yep. Yep. We know.
You
There
make
goes you
out
and
of you
me.
and me.
Mhm.
Right? So communication is so
Mhm.
incredibly important. And that's why I
Mhm.
highly recommend asking all kinds of
Mhm.
open-ended questions.
Right.
I'm a big fan of like the Spanish Inquisition and
Mhm.
just asking all
Right.
kinds
Mhm.
until somebody gets exhausted.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm
Right.
done. In
Mhm.
fact, I did this with a plumber once and he started getting irritated. And I'm like, look,
I
I'm
just
not
want to
trying to
know.
irritate you. I'm just trying to think
Mhm.
and talk this through
Mhm.
so that I can
Mhm.
understand where you're coming from, what
Mhm.
you're describing to
Mhm.
me, and that we're both on the same
Mhm.
page before I sign a contract
Mhm.
to pay you.
Right.
And so once he understood what my intention was with the
Mhm.
question, he kind of took a step back and
Mhm.
was like, okay, now
Right.
let's talk this through then.
Yeah. It's not that you didn't trust him.
Right. And we ended up coming up with a better
Mhm.
solution
Right.
because we were able to
Mhm.
talk through it.
Mhm.
So I
Right.
highly
Mhm.
recommend people, I highly
Mhm.
encourage people to ask
Mhm.
questions.
Right.
There's no such thing as a stupid question unless
Mhm.
you don't ask it.
Right. Well, and I tell people you're probably not the only one with that question. I mentioned just did this big dog show. And I had people who said, it's our first time attending. We hate to bother you, but. And I told them, first of all, so glad that you're coming, whatever I can do to help you. And I said, but if you're asking, other people wonder too. And I said, and more importantly, I've probably just assumed everybody knew when they didn't. And I said, so please don't ever hesitate to ask those questions. There are no stupid questions. And of course the key then is when you answer it, don't answer it like it was a stupid question.
Right. Give,
Mhm.
give me a realistic answer. Give
Mhm.
me an
Right.
organic or
Mhm.
natural, authentic
Mhm.
answer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
somebody out there, if you have that
Mhm.
thought, that means other
Mhm.
people
Right.
have that thought.
Mhm.
And that means they don't know the answer, just
Mhm.
like you don't know the
Right.
answer.
Mhm.
So, and that, when you asked me earlier, what I'm comfortable talking about, if it's
Mhm.
in my book, I'm comfortable
Mhm.
talking. Like
Right.
I literally like bare sleeves, like
Mhm.
everything's out there for me to
Mhm.
talk about. I made this contract with myself that if I have done it,
Mhm.
then I either need to talk about it, I need to take
Mhm.
ownership of it. If I can't talk about something that I've
Mhm.
done,
Mhm.
then it's because I haven't resolved my
Right.
issue
Mhm.
or I shouldn't have done it in the
Mhm.
first place. And then I
Mhm.
need to figure out like
Mhm.
my healing around it.
Mhm.
Right. So I've done a lot of healing. So anything and everything for me is on the table.
Mhm.
And I tell my clients, I tell my family and my friends that like, you can ask me
Mhm.
anything. Like, I'm just an open book.
Right. Even if the answer is I don't know, it's good because then you should be thinking I need to know.
Right. Or like I can do the research. Like
Mhm.
when I was HOA president, I didn't
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
landscaping, and yet we
Right.
had 19 acres of land of
Mhm.
landscaping.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, this is not my forte.
Mhm.
I know how to learn. I know how to decision make.
Mhm.
I know how to
Mhm.
analyze, and I know how to read.
Mhm.
So
Right. And you
with
know how to ask
help,
questions.
and I know how to ask questions.
Mhm.
And I just need you to answer those
Mhm.
questions and educate me. And then I'll
Right.
go back and do my research,
Mhm.
and then I'll come up with a
Mhm.
solution.
Right. Now, the bad part though is when you get and I've had this, especially being a woman, with somebody saying, because I told you so, or I'm the expert. And I tend to shoot that down. I'm like, no, 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 no. But we have heard that, right? Why are you questioning me?
Yeah, but that's because they don't understand.
Right. Mm-hmm. And maybe you
right?
didn't ask it in a way, that
Or maybe we didn't phrase it in a way
Mhm.
that they needed to hear it,
Mhm.
right? So as long as people are asking me questions,
Mhm.
I love that.
Mhm.
Like, ask me the questions, get to know me, and it's
Mhm.
my job to teach you how to
Mhm.
treat me, right?
Right.
It's my job to teach you who
Mhm.
I am, why I am, all the
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
So please ask me the questions.
Mhm.
I don't get irritated by
Mhm.
that. But I know that other people do,
Mhm.
right? So um, I invite the questions, I invite curiosity. Um, yeah. So learn about me, ask the questions.
Right. And if you get the answer of, because I'm the expert or whatever it is, you know, then rethink it. Do we need to go back and say, hey, here's what's going on?
Yes, exactly. That way you can give them the answers and help them understand your perspective and help them understand where you're coming from.
And I think one of the things I think back as like when we were kids, right? And we were the why, and mom, dad, whoever would say, because I told you to. But why? And it was because maybe we were just saying that one question, as opposed to, but I don't understand. Or, and I've certainly had bosses and other people that have told me that. Well, this, or worse, it's because we've always done it this way.
Those are
Right?
the two worst answers in my mind is because I told you so and
Mhm.
because we've always done it this way.
Right. Right.
And there's a time where if something's not broke, don't fix it.
Right. Uh-huh.
I totally get that.
Hmm.
But then there's a time for evolution
Hmm.
and time for progression.
Right.
Just because there's an opportunity to improve what you're
Hmm.
already doing, it
Hmm.
doesn't mean you can't still do that,
Hmm.
right? So like, let's take a random like email marketing,
Hmm.
right? You send out a weekly
Hmm.
newsletter, a monthly newsletter. You can still do that, but you
Hmm.
can automate it in order to make it better,
Right. Right. Hmm.
right? So just those are my two most
Hmm.
frustrating answers.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
And I
And
was always that kid that was just like, no,
but why?
like,
Hmm. Hmm.
why?
Hmm.
Like,
Right.
even to this day, and it
Hmm.
drives my parents
Hmm.
absolutely bonkers. More
Right.
my mom,
Hmm.
but dad loves to explain things.
Hmm.
He's definitely a wordy,
Hmm.
even as a kid, when he would take us camping, he would ask us to describe the
Ah.
sunset.
Ooh.
And he's like, "Isn't that a beautiful sunset?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What does it look like to you?
Hmm.
Like, how would you describe that?
Hmm.
How to like we all get that
Hmm.
it's beautiful, but I
Hmm.
don't see it how you see it. So
Hmm.
what do you like
Hmm.
describe it?"
Right.
So dad is more of the
Hmm.
giving you the answer.
Hmm.
Mom is just like, just do it. And it's like,
Right. Eh. Well, but just think if we ask those questions, why do you think we do it this way? Whether it's of a 3-year-old or an employee or your client who's mad at you or whatever,
mhm.
because you're going to get, and hopefully you'll get honest. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the big thing. But yeah, you might, because again, you have one thing in your mind and something else is happening. And so you need to figure out where that disconnect is. And so yeah, the client might say, well, this happened because I had this happen the other day. They said, because nobody answers your phone. Well, we didn't know that nobody was answering the phone. Nobody was answering the phone because the phone was down, right? Everybody was just going, wow, it's really quiet. And,
but that's also a cue. Like, why is it
right,
really quiet if it's
right.
abnormal for it to be
Uh-huh.
quiet?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, okay, do we
Hmm.
need to test something?
Hmm.
Right? So
Hmm.
that's an opportunity for you
Hmm.
guys to be like, okay, do we need to
Right.
test our
Hmm.
phones? Or
Hmm.
like, what's going on? Why is something
Right.
out of balance
Hmm.
that's
hmm Right.
right?
And
But
and
then ask
again,
questions. Yeah.
yeah, and don't make those assumptions. If somebody's not responding to your email, maybe they didn't get it. They might be ignoring you, or maybe it went in their spam folder or whatever.
Or
And
maybe dealing with something.
right.
I
Yeah.
had a meeting with a lady
Hmm.
earlier, and she's like, "Yeah, I went through a mini stroke a couple weeks ago, and I'm just getting back to myself." And it's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm
Hmm.
so sorry. Like
Hmm.
that happened. Like, can I give you a spiritual hug?" Like,
Hmm. Right.
But, you don't know
Hmm.
what
Right.
responsibilities and what
Right.
priorities other
Hmm.
people are
Hmm.
dealing with.
Hmm.
So giving them a little bit of
Hmm.
grace and just, ask the questions like,
Right.
hey, it's
Hmm.
been two
Hmm.
weeks. We've been working on a
Hmm.
contract. Why haven't
Hmm.
you been calling me
Right.
back?
Yeah. And when I was first diagnosed with cancer, one of the first text messages I sent was to my best friend back in Colorado, and I got crickets. And so, the first thought was very rational. Okay, it's the middle of the day. She's busy, right? She's working. Within a couple of hours went by. And then that little voice starts going, right. She doesn't love me anymore. I didn't get to that, but it was the next one was, did I text the right person? And all of those things and didn't hear back. And then pretty soon my feelings were hurt. And then she responds and she says, I'm having trouble dealing with this. Give me a little bit of time. And I, of course, did. And she came out here twice to help me deal with all of this stuff. I mean, all sorts of things. And so, and of course, the little voices in my head, I just kind of smacked because but yeah, it comes back to that, those stories that we're telling ourselves. And I needed to just be patient. And I think that might be the hardest thing for us, right? We want it now. We want it now. We want it now. We want it yesterday.
Well, especially in this day and age where
Right.
everything
Hmm.
is so
Is
readily
immediate.
available.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
also give your friend kudos
For
for
admitting it.
asking for
Yeah.
what she
Hmm.
needs.
Right. Yeah. Because
But
I
once
had
we know
other
what,
friends that dropped off the face of the earth.
right, but once we know what
Mhm.
somebody needs,
Right.
then we know what to give
Yes.
them instead of
Hmm.
creating the story
Yeah.
in our.
Hmm.
It's like,
Right.
okay, you just need time to
Hmm.
think.
Right.
Right, I can do that.
Hmm.
Or, okay, you need me to be here
Hmm.
to listen. You need
Hmm.
me to be here
Right.
to fix
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
whatever that is, or
Hmm.
you need me to take out the trash.
Right.
Great. But speak up and
Mhm.
ask for what you
Right.
need.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to, people are not mind readers.
Nope.
I've had a lot of people who have said, hey, as I'm going through stuff, will let us know if you need something. And I tell people, no, that's way too general because my brain is so fried with everything. And I said, so be specific. Can I bring you dinner on Thursday? Can I take your kid to the movies? Can I do whatever? Because then my brain can latch onto it and say, I don't want dinner on Thursday, but can you bring it on Saturday? Or, things like that. But then, they also say, well, you never told us you needed something.
Yeah.
And and so I have learned, and maybe people will say no. I mean, but you give them that option. One of the funniest ones I actually told people, I'd been in the hospital for quite a long time,
Hmm.
and the doctor said you need to get exercise and you need to walk. And so I said, okay, but I'm using a walker. I'm going to fall down, all that stuff. And so I posted on Facebook, I need people to come walk me 15 minutes, leash provided, right? To really make it a joke. So the people, so then they were a little bit more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of one of those things where, and then people either said yes or no. And I had some great conversations based on that. And some of it was, hey, I can't get away during the day. Do you need somebody on weekends? All of those things. But yeah, nobody knew I needed people to come walk me until I told them I needed people to come walk me.
Right. And they may say, hey, if you need any help, let me
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
But they don't know. Even during COVID, like I had people offer, hey, can I bring you some toilet paper
Mm-hmm.
or paper towels? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I don't need that,
Right.
but I might need XYZ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's funny because, yeah, like we were saying, we assume they're going to read our minds. And I
Mm-hmm.
also tell people, your doctors are not going to read your mind.
Nope.
Same with your coworkers. Your boss does not know that you need additional resources or something if you don't tell your boss that.
Right. Or your doctors don't know everything that you're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing. So giving them
Right.
all of the
Mm-hmm.
symptoms and not
Mm-hmm.
just a couple that you think are the most
Mm-hmm.
important are
Right.
incredibly
Mm-hmm.
important for them to be able
Mm-hmm.
to diagnose. But this
Right.
is the thing with
Mm-hmm.
your boss. Hey, I'm overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
because of XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
or you've given me too much.
Mm-hmm.
I need your help
Right.
prioritizing what
Yeah.
you need me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me
Mm-hmm.
what's the highest
Mm-hmm.
priorities and let's work on that
Mm-hmm.
together so that we're both happy.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you what you
Mm-hmm.
need, but I'm not feeling
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed because now I know what you
Mm-hmm.
need.
Right. Well, and you mentioned this in your book, you became a massage therapist,
I did.
which I love because, that is so, there's so many things that go along with that. It's not just, hey, let's make this muscle, this whatever work. But again, if they just come in and say, well, my arm hurts when I do this. Okay. But you need to know more than what were you trying to lift something? What had you done before? All those various things.
So I struggle. So, going from accounting there
Right.
was a total 180 flip, right? Corporate America to sales, left brain, right brain. It was a complete flip for me. And I really struggled with working for the chains because it was a turn and burn. You had an hour or an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
So the chain that I worked for, you had an hour and 15 minutes. They get an hour massage, which means you have 15 minutes to bring them in the room, let them get set up on the table, and then get them off the table, walk them out, and
Right.
set up for the next client. It was just a turn and burn. So when I opened my own business, I actually, and even with COVID, I ended up spending an hour and a half with my clients for a 1 hour massage because as you come in, I want to know what's working well for you, what's not working well for you, what's going on with your emotions, what's going on in your life. And usually by being able to vent and to talk about what's going on in your body automatically just starts relaxing.
Right.
And then you're relaxed before you even.
Right. And so the treatment is going to go better.
The treatment's going to go better. You're going to get a longer effect from the massage. You're going to feel heard. You're going to feel cared for, all of the things. And so that's how I really built a successful massage business, is because I actually spent time with my clients and learning about them. And then it was quite the transition when I closed that business and moved up to Denver because I really built those relationships.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, now I don't have those relationships with people. Now they're not reaching out to me because I'm no longer their therapist. And so there was that loss.
Right.
It was a grieving.
Because you got to really know them.
I got to know their kids, their spouses, things in their life, transitions that they're dealing with. I hope you can't hear that. And all these things that now I don't get to be a part of.
Right. Did any of those friendships remain?
One out of thousands.
Interesting. But the thing is, they still got really good care, and that was obviously the important thing.
Right.
But
And I set the tone for them, for anybody else, any future person that I'm working for. And I have had a few of them call me since then. They're like, do you know any good therapists? Because in this area, because I can't find any. They're like, you set the bar so high.
Right.
Now, like, we can't accept
right.
No.
I'm going to have to fly to Denver.
Because I don't want you to accept anything less than that. This is the kind of service that you deserve.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It wasn't that you were going above and beyond. You were going above and beyond, but that was what they deserved. And I think, it's, I remember one time I was listening to Peter Shankman, and I've had him on the program several times. He's, the big marketing guru. He's really funny. And he said that the problem is we all accept that average is okay. And that's horrible.
I have to, so I love that you brought that up. So when I started working for this chain, they told me that their goal was for me to have a 35% retention rate.
Yikes.
And that's,
so you're losing 65%. Did I do my math right?
And that those are their gold star employees. And my first thought is at 35% is an F on
That's horrible. Yes.
Are you planning to fail? And then my next thought is, how much time and money are you wasting?
Right. Getting new people.
On the turnover. Not just the turnover with the therapist. Do you know how much marketing you have to do to
Right.
bring in
Mm-hmm.
that many
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
on a regular
Mm-hmm.
basis in order to keep your therapist busy?
Right.
And I was like, oh my,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't comprehend. So
No.
back to my 70-20-10
Mm-hmm.
rule, when I decided to open my own business, I
Mm-hmm.
want 70% of my clients to
Mm-hmm.
be happy, returning,
Mm-hmm.
regular
Mm-hmm.
clients. 20% to be intermittent,
Right.
maybe they're once a
Mm-hmm.
year or once every 6
Mm-hmm.
months. And then the 10% are the one and dones.
Right. And they were going to be one and done no matter what.
Right. And the new clients. I want
Mm-hmm.
10% to be one
Mm-hmm.
and dones and new
Mm-hmm.
clients.
Right. Because you turn
New
them into
clients,
the 70s. Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
20s or the
Mm-hmm.
70s. So, like you're planning to fail. I don't
I
understand.
know. Yeah. And then then when you think about it, you're like, wow, I just have to be slightly above average to be really good. But then the key is so be way above average.
Right. But is that acceptable to me?
No.
According
Yeah.
to my standards and my values and my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
principles. And as I can't, I, I personally cannot be okay with being average
Right. Yeah.
as far as a service provider or
Mm-hmm.
even as a partner
Mm-hmm.
or a sister.
Right. Well, and with everything, I mean, do you want your meal to be average? Do you
No,
want, all of those things you want above average? But we've gotten used to that too. I was like,
yep,
ugh, it's okay. I don't want to complain. I don't want to complain just to the person serving me my food because it might come back and not have something, have something I don't want in it. Um,
right. But also
but
post-COVID,
yeah.
it's like, oh, it's after COVID. They're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with things,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
There's the supply chain, there's this,
Mm-hmm.
there's that. People don't want to work
Mm-hmm.
anymore. They're,
Mm-hmm.
low staffed,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah.
Oh
We've got
yeah.
all these
Mm-hmm.
great
Mm-hmm.
excuses
Yep.
in
Yep.
order to accept below average.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I have a hard time with it.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because when it is exceptional, it is mind blowing. I mentioned this big dog show. We were at this hotel in Kingsport, Tennessee, way up in the middle of the mountains. It was very cool, very pretty. Now I've been doing special events for 30 years. Far and away, this was the best hotel staff I have ever dealt with. And so I've asked them, I said, I need to know your owner's emails. And they kind of went, I said, no, not bad, not bad. But one of the things, like they have they have several employees there who have been there since they opened 20 years ago.
Well, and that's the key.
I know.
Employee retention.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? When
Mm-hmm.
you have the long-term
Mm-hmm.
employee, they understand the
Right.
business.
Mm-hmm.
They understand how the
Mm-hmm.
business has
Mm-hmm.
changed, how the
Mm-hmm.
business has
Right.
evolved, the new
Mm-hmm.
processes and procedures.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
loyal.
Oh
Hello, we
yeah.
want loyal
Yep.
employees
Mm-hmm.
and loyal customers,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? And so they
Mm-hmm.
end up providing
Mm-hmm.
a better
Right.
service.
Right. Well, and then the other thing that they did, now I had run of the place, right? Because I was in charge of this big thing. And so one of the things that really impressed me was if I needed something, I would go and find whoever. And one of the times it was about 6 o'clock in the morning. And excuse me, the trash cans hadn't been emptied yet. So I go bebopping into the back and I find banquet people. Now, my first words to them were, I know this is not your job, but can you find someone to empty the trash? Ma'am, we will do it for you. Not once in 10 days did I hear, that's not my job. And when I mentioned it to them, they said, that's how we train people. They are told that they do it if they can do it. And if they can't do it, they are responsible for finding someone who can. And I mean, I was just, like I said, I was blown away. I mean, we're considering going back there for future events simply because of how the staff treated us.
Well, and that's the way that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
Right.
you get return clients.
Yes.
That's how
Yeah.
you get return
Yep.
business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know that there's an applicable way to talk about that in relationships too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, if I'm not the right person for you,
Mm-hmm.
just tell me. Let's not
Right. Yeah. I might
um
even know somebody who is.
right. Well, and that's really leading with love, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, if I'm not the
Right.
right person,
Mm-hmm.
let me
Mm-hmm.
go, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna let you go, or if I am, then tell me so that we
Mm-hmm.
can
Right.
progress the forward.
Mm-hmm.
But also like, then tell me what you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
so that either I can decide whether or
Mm-hmm.
not I'm the right person for
Right.
you, or if I can think of somebody else
Mm-hmm.
that might be the right
Mm-hmm.
person for you.
Mm-hmm.
But not like really hone in on what you
Mm-hmm.
want and how you want to
Mm-hmm.
create that, whether it's business or life or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Figure out what you want.
Right. And
Communicate.
folks,
Ask
don't
for it.
accept less. Do not accept less.
No. Do not
Don't
accept
accept
less than what you
average.
deserve.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In fact,
I love it.
I had a guy that I was talking to about this. He'd just gotten in a fight with his girlfriend, and he's 42, and he's like, I think I'm just done with relationships. And I was like, I invite you to look at that a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I do talk about this a little bit in my book. The first guy I dated after my second divorce, he was 25 years my senior. He'd
Mm-hmm.
also been through 2 divorces.
Mm-hmm.
And he had hardened himself to where
Mm-hmm.
he would never get married again, which is
Right.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
But he could never tell a woman outside of his daughter that he loves her
Oh, because he didn't want to be hurt.
because he didn't want to be hurt. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to put himself out there
Mm-hmm.
anymore. And he had been dating somebody for 10 years. And even after 10 years, he still couldn't tell. And I'm just like,
Yikes.
and that's when I realized I deserve better than that.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Mm-hmm.
better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, this is the lesson I learned,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to pass this on to you. Take it however you wish, do with it whatever you wish. But I invite you to know that you are too young. At 42,
Mm-hmm.
you are too young to live the rest of your life without romantic love.
Mm-hmm.
So while you may not see it now, and you're going through your issues right now, do not settle for less than what you deserve, but also choose whether or not you want to live with an open heart or if you want to live with a closed heart.
Right.
And I invite you to do the first rather than the latter.
Right. Oh my gosh, Wendy, this has been so much fun. We are at the top of the hour and we still have all sorts of things to chat about. So we'll just have to have you on again. But
yeah.
tell people, how do they find you and how do they connect with you?
Yeah, so visit my website at tbrspiritualhealth.com. That stands for To Be Revealed. You can also text me at 844-735-6090. And you can always get my book on Amazon,
And we have a link.
or Kindle.
I love it. I love it. Well, this really has been so much fun and a great conversation. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everybody with?
2 things. One, I invite you to really intentionally listen, whether it's in business or life or in general. Intentionally listen to what people are telling you, because then you can either check off the boxes and know that that's the right person to propose a business opportunity to, or the right person to date or whatever, or they're not going to check off the boxes and to move on to the next person or to just have a general conversation and just enjoy their company, right? So, and intentionally listen to yourself. How are you speaking to yourself? Are you speaking kindly? Are you speaking through anger? Are you speaking through hurt or judgment? That's going to be my last thought, is really intentionally listen. Open your ears and hear every word that people are saying. It'll help you to communicate back to them by using their words so that they can understand your message better, but you are also taking the time to understand them, discern, vet people, right? It's a way to vet people to make sure that they're a quality person to include in your circle.
Oh my gosh. I've been having so much fun talking with Wendy Watson. She is a spiritual relationship mentor. And as we said, the CEO at TBR Spiritual Health. I'm Deb Creer. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.